Hi, everybody. Amy Walker here, and welcome to the CEO Spot. This is your place to be for the training and education and experts that you need to help you grow your business. It is an interview day, and that means we get to bring another expert onto our platform and talk about a topic that I know you all want to learn about. We're going to be talking about how to attract more money into your business today. So James Goi is our expert of the day. He has a very cool hat and an awesome beard. And James, we're really happy to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'm going to tell the officials about why you're so cool and the right person to have this conversation. James is the Attract Money Guru. He's the best-selling author of How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. And it's a book that sets a new standard for concise, no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point self-help. It was first published in 2007. First published in 2007. And since then, he has also published other books such as Advanced Manifesting Made Easy, Aware Power Functioning, and The God Function. The taglines for James as an author and publisher is books to awaken, uplift, and empower. You can also see James in the groundbreaking docudrama Think and Grow Rich, The Legacy. So James, welcome. We're so excited to have you here today to have this important conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. So I want to hear a little bit about how you got started. I feel like everybody's got an interesting story. And I know for me, as I hear someone's beginnings and their origin story, it really helps me to connect a little bit more with where they are today. So how did you get started learning about money and attraction and all this manifesting fun stuff?
Right. Okay. Well, I came to California as a young man from New Jersey. So I'm in the San Diego area, and I came out here about 40 years ago. And within the first few years, I started finding my first books on mind power, law of attraction, spirituality, paranormal subjects, and manifesting, all of these types of books that I had really never been exposed to before. And this subject just absolutely gripped me from the very start. And I started haunting old bookstores and swap meets and yard sales and bookstores. And a lot of the books I was finding were out of print. I was very happy and lucky to find them. And I just made a real study of this. And within several years, I started going around on the New Age, metaphysical bookstore circuit in San Diego and teaching this stuff. And I lived over in Sedona, Arizona, which is kind of a mecca for metaphysical and spiritual happenings. And I lived there for 4 months and taught there at a New Age center. And one thing I noticed was that people routinely seem to have a problem with attracting money using metaphysical techniques. And I always found that interesting because, like, when I would be lecturing or whatever, and people would say, well, I've got the home of my dreams, or I attracted my ideal mate using visualization, or I used an affirmation and got out of debt. But why doesn't this stuff work for money? And I knew that it worked for money because I had used it. That was one of my greatest needs, was money, and I had used these techniques. And so that's what eventually led to me writing the book. The book was a long time coming. It was 9 years from when I started, when I had my first idea for the book and my first working title, and the first few words, 9 years until I published it. But I moved around a lot between different states. I had to learn how to write. I didn't know how to type. I didn't know how to use a computer until 1 year before I published my book.
Wow.
I read hundreds of books in that time. I collected up hundreds of quotes. I use 160 of them in my book, each from different books. But yet you can read this book in a sitting or two. So it was a real labor of love. But I wanted to really address this situation of mind power and money. It works, but there wasn't, and still isn't, other than my book, a really concise manual style how-to book on how to do this. And that's what I wanted to provide. And that's what I think I've done. I do believe still that it's the most concise and usable book on this particular subject that's been written yet.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dig into it. So I'm going to say an observation that I've had. I'm not saying this is like a gospel truth, but this is an observation that I've had. I feel like, now, let me preface it. I feel there's some people who are religious, but not real spiritual. There's some people who are spiritual, but not real religious. I'm religious and spiritual. And so I've seen that in both the religious circles and in the spiritual circles, there's a disconnect with money. And then in circles where you've got people who have a lot of money, there sometimes is a disconnect with the spiritual side. And so I'm curious, how do you create that bridge between the two? Because there's a lot of people that are now emerging that are entrepreneurs who are they're very emotionally connected with their business. They feel called to do this work. They feel like it is their life's mission, and they approach it from a very spiritual sense, but then they struggle to bring in the money that it will take to actually make it work and make the impact. And I think that's a really big problem. I think that we, as spiritual people, I feel like we have a responsibility and a calling to be able to create wealth so that we can do the good in the world that we feel called to do. So how do you create that bridge? How do you help people make that transition?
Right. And that was one thing that I wanted this book to do, was I wanted it to cover a wide spectrum of people. So I'm extremely spiritually oriented, but I'm also highly motivated to have money, because money is one of the greatest tools we have in modern life to live our dreams and to help people and everything else. And so I wanted to write a book that, you've got some people way over on the spiritual side, and sadly, they've been taught to demonize money. Like, oh, I can't really want a lot of money because then I'm not spiritual. And so then you have people way over on the other side who are just go-getters. They're just, goal setters, and they go to motivational seminars and read books. Maybe they're Tony Robbins fans or whatever. And some of them are spiritual, but not necessarily. And I wanted to bridge the gap, because in the book is a spiritual process, but it's a mind power process. So anyone can basically do it. But really, the people who are way over on the one end, that it's the luck of the draw, and it's who you know, and it's dog eat dog, and I got to make contacts, and I got to network. And then you got the people way on the other side. It's the universe and what I put out and what I think and feel. Law of attraction, ask, believe, receive. And I wanted to pull all of that together, because either one is really out of balance, and we need both. Right. And if you're way over on the other side, where you're just a business person who has no spiritual inclination, there's people out there that are actually billionaires. They have absolutely no idea that they're using mind power, but they're using mind power. If you look at how they think, how they feel, what their actions are, the way they speak, it's all mind power. And so I wanted to pull this all together and help everyone who wants to have more money to have more money, and to help the people who are highly spiritually oriented to be more practical, and to also realize that money is really a good, wonderful, beautiful tool if we use it right. And I also wanted to help the goal setters who are materially minded, who are not spiritually minded, come into a process which, as they get into it for the money, but it actually kind of sneaks them into a more spiritual way of living, watching how they think, imaging what they want, being kind, giving to other people, because all of this is a part of working the universe, how it works, so that we can attract money. And so I tried to I didn't want to exclude everyone. And this doesn't go against anybody's religion or anything. And I think all people deserve to have as much money as they can conceive of and believe and use wisely. And I indeed believe that for good people, those desires to have a lot more are actually spiritual. They're coming from their higher self, or whatever you want to call it. And it's the spirit within them moving them towards a greater, more expanded life.
And I think that when we are in balance, we're really good at doing that. And when we let ourselves get too far to one side or the other, that's where we're either going to create wealth, but we do it the hard way. We do it all through the work of it, and we don't integrate the mind power. Or on the other side, we're great with mind power, but we don't create the wealth. So I love the balanced approach to that. Let's define mind power. How do you define mind power?
Very simply, we as human beings, we think, we feel, and we have concepts, we have images which arise in our minds. That is mind power. All of those are mind power in action. When we think, we're creating a mold, really, for the universe to start to see, oh, what does this person want? And remember, the universe is completely impartial. And it doesn't care if it's good or bad, right or wrong, but what we start to try to create in our mind, what we think, and then the feelings we have, the stronger the emotion. So if we think about things we don't want and we're very fearful, the more fearful we are of it, the more power we're giving it, the more apt we are to draw it to us. The more excited and expectant and happy and joyful we are about things we want to create, the more power. So the thoughts, the feelings, the images which just naturally arise, the words we speak, of course, which kind of backs up all of that and makes it more powerful. Basically, when a human being is awake, everything you think, do, say, feel, see, imagine, it's all mind power. And that's why it's so important to learn how to think, how to feel, how to image, how to come to believe and expect, and so that you can get a whole lot more of what you want with a whole lot less unintended negative consequences, and keep away from you those types of things you'd rather avoid.
You know, this is something that I had a conversation with someone recently, and they were asking me why I'm so tight about what types of shows that I watch. And my response was, because I work really hard to create a life intentionally, and I don't want to fill up my brain with a whole bunch of stuff that I don't want. So I think we are in a time where our minds are constantly being fed. And most of the things that we're feeding into our minds are actually things that we would not want in our lives. So do you feel like this has gotten a little bit worse lately, or is it getting better? Because I feel like we're a little bit zombies, you know, always on our screen, always watching something. We don't give ourselves enough time to think or to meditate. We're not real proactive with that mental creation. But at the same time, you got a lot of people who are learning about this in ways that we haven't had these conversations before. So what do you notice that our current lifestyle and society style has an effect on how well we use that mind power?
Right. Well, we're very, now, and let me preface this by saying that I'm almost looking in as an outsider, because I got rid of my television sets. We turned them off more than 5.5 years ago, kept them around for 3 months just to make sure, because we've done it before for a year at a time. And that's it. They've been gone for more than 5.5 years now. But I am on social media because I'm an author, and I run into, you know, what's going on, whether it's politics or whatever. And a lot of it's very negative, and it's anger based. And I just like to tell people that whether it's what you're doing on YouTube or what you're doing on Facebook or Twitter, television, and the books you read, radio, all of that, you have got to moderate and control access to your mind. If you really want to be a very, very powerful mind power practitioner, where you are always attracting good things, just like as a matter of course, just huge amounts of money, as I've done, and miracles that are happening, synchronicities all over the place, negative things that pop up, even dangerous things. I've had divine intervention in accidents, and even with people trying to hurt me in things where it wasn't something I did to protect myself, but the universe stepped in. If you really want to get that level of mind power for manifesting and for protection and for living a good life, you cannot afford to just let anyone work, you know, your family, the workplace, friends, coworkers, whatever. You have got to start moderating, exactly as you're talking about, what you allow into your mind, and more allow the good stuff. And also time alone. I mean, all the great masters of the past, you know, I'm a relative recluse right now. I went to do my car at the service place, at the car dealership 2 days ago. And I recently said it was 2 days ago on an interview that it was 46 days, but I double checked. It was 65 or 66 days since I'd been out of my own house or my own property. So I'm a relative recluse. And I don't tell people to do that either. But what I do say is that you can spend more time alone and you can be a lot more selective about what you let into your mind, because we are capable of so much more. I mean, I can barely still even wrap my mind around some of the things that have happened for me, some of the things I've done through sheer force of will and mind power. But you don't get to those levels by having to counteract all of that negativity, because no one can. No one's that strong. So you've got to limit that severely and increase the positive, both from outside sources, books, videos, whatever, and from your own quiet time, thinking and contemplating and things.
One of the things that I have, my secret weapons in business has always been my journaling time. So I think the best things that have ever come out of my business happened during quiet journaling time, me asking questions to the heavens and me getting direct responses and going, okay, I'll do that. And I feel like it shortcuts the process. And it's interesting how the thing that gets me off is busyness. When I go, well, I'm too busy too. And I've just had to really tell myself, you are too busy not to. You can't afford to not take that time, because that 30 minutes that I spend at the beginning of each day journaling and making sure that I'm grounded mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, that's what makes it so that I can be productive during the day, and that I can be creative, and that I can be focused. And I just think we're too much in a hurry, always running to the next thing, that we miss that.
Right. We're doing too much out there and not enough in here. And inside is where you set the foundation, because everything will arise and be birthed from the inner, from your thoughts and your feelings, the world of, the quantum physicists would say energy and potential. If we do more work there, we'll actually have to do less work out here. And if we're doing a lot of, busyness and running around, we will get results, but we could be getting better results, more in harmony, because we won't be forcing them as much. We'll be allowing the universe to orchestrate things more, which is a key element to mind power, which is we create in our minds the outcome we want, and we follow intuition as far as our part, but we don't use conscious mind and all these pros and cons and, I'll try this, I'll try that. And so you can get results, but you can get better results in more harmony with less unintended negative consequences by doing a lot of the work inside first. This is what, and today there's so many very famous people, whether it's Oprah, Lady Gaga, Will Smith, the list goes on and on. They know this, and I love them because they are not afraid to say it. They tell people, listen, I believe in this, and I believe this is how I'm doing what I'm doing, how I'm this successful. And it really does work.
It's so fascinating, human nature, how we are willing to work hard our entire lives because we think it's the only way to get it done. And I've definitely experienced with what you're talking about. Now, I will say I am not perfect at staying in that zone. I get in the zone and then I fall out of the zone, and then I have to get back into the zone. But I have found that the times I created success with the most ease, I was working really hard internally. I was digging, I was thinking, I was contemplating, I was praying, I was meditating, I was visualizing, I was, using vision boards and writing. I love to write. So writing the story of everything I was creating. Those were the times where I spent more time there, but everything else flowed so much more easily. And it's definitely one of my focuses for this new year is to get back into a better balance point from where I was last year.
Right. That's a good, every year we have another chance to try to get more grounded in the process that's going to be more productive. And it definitely is understanding that everything comes from the inside out. And quantum physicists will actually tell you there is nothing out there. And it's the same thing the mystics have been saying. This all really is it's all mind, and it's all conceptual and it's all subjective, and we're actually creating it as we go along. This is modern quantum physics. We know this. We're creating reality as we go along, and we're doing that as a species, as a planet, but we can do that in our individual lives. And we can be, you know, Jim Carrey's another one who talks about, you know, and there's the famous story of him writing that check for himself for $10 million for, you know, acting services rendered, carrying that around in his wallet for years. And he ended up getting his first $10 million payday and went up from there. So really, I like people to understand, it's my life's mission to help them understand that everything starts from the inner. If you just stop, take a step back, take a deep breath, learn a few principles and techniques, and then start applying them, everything will just start magically really arising in its perfect way and in its perfect time. It's a process you have to, you know, see firsthand to really appreciate. And once you do, you're hooked. You'll never want to go back to the law of the jungle, because that's a hard way to live, and there's a lot of negativity and loss and hurt involved. We can avoid a lot of that by using mind power principles and techniques.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. I know we're just about out of time, but this is such an important conversation that it just doesn't have to be so hard. That's what I want our viewers to hear, is that it just doesn't have to be a struggle constantly. Are you going to work to build your business? Yes. Are you going to market? Yes. Are you going to sell? Yes. You're going to do all of those things. But if you'll add this layer in of your thinking being in the right place, everything just becomes so much easier. So James, I really appreciate you being on with us today. If our audience and our fans want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Okay, well, my website is my name. So it's jamesgoijr.com. They can go there. I've got all the social buttons to click over to Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And also when they're there, I encourage people to sign up for my free monthly Mind, Power, and Money e-zine. When they do, they'll get a free PDF copy of my book, Attract Money Forever, which is a companion book to How to Attract Money Using Mind Power. And again, that's jamesgoijr.com.
Awesome. And those of you who are watching, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do it now. We're bringing you great quality interviews every Tuesday and Thursday, plus business tips from me on the other 3 days. And join us in our private Facebook community, the CEO Spot. This is a place to continue the conversation, connect with other entrepreneurs, and get the skills and the insights that you need. And please leave us a comment. Tell us, what were your takeaways from today? How is this information going to make your life and business better? James, thank you so much for being on with us. I've really appreciated getting to know you and getting to hear more about your expertise.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. And all of you, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, everybody.